Okay, when soldering, you want to make sure that you have lots of open air flow around you. You don't want to have the smoke build up. So I'm in a garage outside, the garage door open and windows open in front of me here. When you get your cable in bulk, if you're doing XLR cable, when you get it in bulk, you're gonna have, if you get multi-core, which is what I have, you're gonna have basically, once you've prepared the cable, you're gonna have a blue, you're gonna have a white, and you're gonna have the ground. And the ground is the shield around the cable, so you have to basically use something like fine, like, some kind of fine, I was gonna say like something like this, maybe some kind of fine point, finer than that, like a really fine Phillips head or something like that, small one, so you can open that up off of the braiding from around the cable. And then if you have two pairs instead of just two, like a white and some other color, if you have two pairs, you have to kind of like twist them together with your fingers for both of them, and it'll look like that. And so now I'm going to tin the tips. So first I'm going to turn on my soldering iron, and it's turning on to around 377. So it's going to start heating up. Let's see, when you're done with the solder job for the cable, it'll look like should look like this. So that's pin on this far here, pin 1, this is pin 2, and then this top one's pin 3 up here, and that's ground on the far. This is white, is your positive signal, and then blue, which is your negative. And on the XLR itself, this is 1, 2, and 3, and you find those numbers here on the front. They're really small, so you got to make sure that those match when you wire up your XLR, that your ground is on pin 1, that your positive is on pin 2, and pin 3 is your negative. And usually positive is going to be like white hot, and they usually call the positive lead the hot lead. So my stuff is warmed up now. So I'm going to take my cable here that I've already prepared a little bit when I was inside, and I'm going to snip off this extra tie that's around there. And now I'm going to tin the tips. So I'm going to put it in here. So it's stationary, this vice grip, which it's really recommended to have at least one, if not two, vice grips. And here's my solder, rosin core. This one is Kester. I can't really see. 0.031 inches, so 0.8 millimeter diameter. You want to get a good quality solder, and when you tin your tips, you take your solder iron, right? Clean it off on the steel wool. That's what I do, and then touch the thing to there to get some solder going. Don't breathe it in. And then you take this here and you touch your iron to, and you just move quickly, touch your iron to the lead while also touching your solder to the lead at the same time. You just need a little bit, and this is called tinning the tips. And what this does is it prepares the contacts to be quickly binding to your XLR connector, so that they make contact quickly. And the heat helps, because when you activate the solder, it heats up the tip quickly because of the flux inside of it, the rosin core. So solder is used to kind of heat up the situation a little bit, and to make combustion, and to make it make it adhere. So now we're going to put our gun away for a second. I'm going to take flux pen, which this is useful for adding flux, which is inside of the solder, to make it hot quickly so that it melts. This is to make it melt even faster, so that once I apply heat to the point of contact, that it melts it much quicker. And why that's useful is because it makes, like if you're soldering on a board or something, I'm just going to prepare this other vice grip real quick. If you're soldering on a board or something, or a component, instead of these cables that are passive and there's no electronics on them right now, if you're soldering on a board and you're replacing components and such, you can burn components or burn the trace leads. You can burn components or the trace leads if you're not careful, which is bad because then you're trying to replace a part or a component, and then you've burned essentially off of the PCB the spot where you're supposed to be working and replacing. So then your thing is toast and you have to figure out how to bridge it. So instead of doing that, you want to apply heat quickly. The concept is to apply the heat to have it be flash heat kind of thing. So it quickly heats up the contact, and then so it doesn't ruin the area with excessive amounts of heat, continuous heat from the soldering iron. So the idea is to be strike hot and strike quickly, and then kind of get out of there. So if you ever touch your flux parts that you touch with your flux pen, remember it's very toxic, so wash your hands, don't touch anything. That's not the project. And make sure you put on first your sleeve for the back side of your connector. Don't forget that. That often is the cause why I'll have to re-solder shit. It's because I'll forget, once I get this part right here on, I'll forget to have put on the sleeve, and so then when I want to make my cable, I can't, unless the other lead isn't connected yet. So I'll use the flux pin here to make these leads have some flux on them. The points of contact on the XLR. And so I'm gonna look and make sure I got my details right about my numbers. So 1 is here, 2 is here, and 3 is up top. So right here I have to make sure I put this one here. So what I'm doing right now is I'm making sure that I've got the space I need for these all to fit snugly. I already did a pre-measure earlier, just by eye when I was cutting the cable and crimping it. Let's see if I can just get the middle one to behave real quick. I can probably just solder the middle one in and then have a chance to get the other two. So I use a second grip here, so once I've got that, then I've got a height adjustment I can get, because I really want to get, let's see, oh, I can zoom in, sweet. Shit. Cool. That's good enough. So I want to get, that blue contact really flush with the XLR contact. Like I want that flush in there so that also when I stick the soldering iron, when I stick the end in there, it'll fit snugly into that contact, and then I can just take solder and push it into the iron that's hot, and it should just fill the contact point, and you'll see what I'm doing. And this, why this is easier, so you don't have to fuck with, once you solder the joint, it becomes stiff. So once it's in there and it's been filled up with solder, it's not going anywhere unless you heat it up to the point where it's liquid again, but it quickly turns to solid. So that's why this is all so complicated. And also why it's important is because you want to make sure that you have good contact between the cable and the point. So you want to basically be able to push push your cable, like your little blue wire twist, you want to push it into the contact with your soldering iron somewhat, so that you know it's making contact, like hard contact with the metal below it. And while you push solder into that point, while you push solder into your iron and it turns into a melting stream of solder, it just kind of fills right into that gap, right into the contact. And I'm not spending that much time. I'm spending just the amount of time I need at the temperature I need to be at, which is pretty low, 377. You could heat it up a little bit. I mean, it's not too low, but you could heat it up a little bit and get it to burn faster. But then you just start to burn the flux, and you see burnt flux everywhere. And I'm trying to do this kind of clean, so that the cable lasts and looks good and whatever. It's easier this way. Order of operations. So I've got my blue and my ground, and I'm just about to finish this one, and then I'll do a close-up. So I've got that on there. I can feel that it's like making good contact. Like there's like a breaking point where you feel, yeah, I made the contact. You have to kind of hold your iron on there for a couple seconds until you feel that, while you're filling it up with solder. And you don't have to put too much, just enough. I would say that this is okay, but the contacts are still a little bloated. You don't want to have such bloated contacts. But you can see so it's pretty alright. I mean, also you see the flux has kind of hugged the cable, and it hugs the contour of the kind of the wire braid, and so you can see that in the connection, and that kind of tells you that it's grabbed onto the wire braid, and it's also spread from there onto the contact. If you have bad contacts, there'll be a big bubble, like a big bubble of glob on that piece right there, and that means that it didn't necessarily make contact between the cable and the contact here with the solder, that it just blubs solder on there. And actually those can go cold, the cold solder joints. You don't want that necessarily. It'll not give you any results. It won't work, or you know, whatever, it's not gonna work at some point. Might give you false hope at first. Anyway, so now I'm putting on the shield, this little thing here, which you just line it up with. Oh, what I could also do real quick is take, if I felt like I had to use too much flux to kind of heat it up, like I had to apply more flux and stuff, which I didn't have to, but if I did, and there was a bunch of extra kind of yellow on there from where the flux kind of heats up, what I can do is just kind of rub it off. Sorry, there's no focus on this. Need to get a legit phone for this, or camera. But I can just kind of clean that off with cotton swab. Those contacts where I applied that extra flux, to kind of just clean that off of there, because over time that kind of makes a mess and doesn't go away. And it's got a lot of flux on that one, so it's been cleaned off. Nice and clean. A little too much extra right there. You don't want this much excess. You should probably have this kind of come up to here, but sometimes it's hard to judge when you're preparing how much you'll need. But it's not too much overall, because it's still not, like, it's still making the contact here, which is, it's supposed to grab onto this, like this jacket. So the jacket needs that black cable, the black housing cable, to grab onto. So I've prepared that now. And now, just take this, and let's see. Okay, that's in. And voila. Mic cable. So now I just gotta do this for the other side, and a bunch more times. For the other side, and then just a bunch more times, or 7 more times, and then I'm done with all the cables that I had to make. But this is an intro, or this is kind of like a tips on soldering video. Good to have some of these around, these clippers. Also good to have one of these, which is the crimping tool, so you can crimp your cable, which you can basically use this to cut off the thick jacket and also to cut off the thin jackets inside. And then they like doing like these cuts here for these little blue and white and these guys. It's just a quick damn, I'm trying. There you go, just a quick crimp with this tool here, and then that jacket comes right off with the settings and adjustment here and such. So that's it. Hope someone learned something about soldering. Get a decent soldering iron. Make sure you have the right tools that you need. Get some pliers. I mean, shit, you need pliers. You know, get enough light so you can see, and make sure you have good ventilation. So windows and garage doors open. I could put a fan on, but anyway. This has been Soldering with Pikachu, and I hope you enjoyed yourself and learned a little bit about making cables.